MrBeast, along with the help of Mark Rober, set out in 2019 to plant 20 million trees, and they succeeded, with 2,600 trees being planted each and every day. Now there's a new problem that they've come together to solve: plastic waste in the ocean. Every day, 8 million pieces of plastic make their way into the world's oceans, contributed by every country in the world. The US alone adds 38 million tons of plastic to that number each year. But you might be wondering, why does it matter? Well, plastic is dangerous, not only for the planet, the plants, or the animals, but also humans. Micro and macroplastics are tiny bits of plastic that can easily be digested by all animals, and these are shown to have many adverse effects on those that involuntarily swallow them, or those that for some reason voluntarily swallow them. In the oceans alone, 1 million birds die each year due to plastic pollution, and a further 100,000 more marine animals die, and 100% of baby turtles that were tested had plastic in their stomach, which is an increase of 100% over tests that were done 400 years ago. But as I said, the effects on humans is just as bad. Accidental plastic consumption, commonly from plastic leaching into water/milk from the bottles that they're contained in, cause an array of negative health effects, including cancer, cardiovascular diseases, inflammatory bowel disease, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic inflammation, autoimmune conditions, neurodegenerative diseases, and strokes. And you can tell most of these are bad because of their sciencey names. The plastic is reaching the ocean in a multitude of ways, namely urban and storm runoffs, sewer overflows, beach visitors, bad waste disposal, industrial activities, construction, and illegal dumping. And whilst the ways it's getting into the ocean is many, the methods used to clean it back up is also growing. When it comes to cleaning the oceans, the science is cutting edge on how advanced it is, so try and stick with me here as it gets a little bit complicated. So at the moment, the leading way being used to clean it up is a large net that is attached to two boats that is dragging it along the top of water at a very slow speed. As I said, complicated. This method allows the natural flow of the ocean to push plastic into the net, trapping it until they collect enough to empty the net. This method doesn't harm fish either, as they can easily swim faster than the net, which is actually only moving at about 1 mile per hour. Plus, the net only goes 3 meters down, so any fish can easily just swim underneath should they need to. But despite this, the area of the ocean that has plastic in it is staggering. Due to natural underwater flows, a lot of these plastics are ending up in one of the 5 large garbage patches located around the world's oceans, like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which takes up an area the size of your mother. I mean, an area double the size of Texas, with just plastic, and pictures of these patches are awful to look at, as it truly shows the scale of the problem, and most of these pictures aren't even capturing more than 0.1% of the true issue. The other patches are located in the North Atlantic, South Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, and the South Pacific, and the cleanup of these areas will take decades if not longer. But there is another issue with cleaning these up. The introduction of new plastics hasn't stopped or even slowed down. Just as much plastic is coming into these as is being taken out. But there is a solution to that problem, and that is what's currently being discussed. But after all, this is an economics channel, so what effect is the plastic having monetarily? Well, surprisingly, quite a lot. Yearly, the United States loses 290 million, Brazil loses 320 million a year, but both of these are dwarfed by India and China, who lose 1.4 billion and 5 billion respectively. But how is plastic in the ocean costing money? Well, in places like US, it's mostly tourism, whilst in places like Canada, it's fishing that's affected. But for the rest, it's usually just the cleanup costs associated with having plastic in the water. Over 4.3 billion of China's expenses are in cleaning it up alone. So surely the best method for lowering the cost of cleaning the waste will be preventing the waste reaching the oceans or rivers at all, right? Well, that's where MrBeast and Mark Rober come in. Similar to TeamTrees, they are once again asking for donations from people like you. For every dollar donated, 1 pound of plastic will be taken out of the ocean, and 1 pound of plastic looks like a lot more than it sounds. This is 1 pound of plastic, and this is 5 pounds, so you can easily see how much a small donation can actually help out. So what's MrBeast and Mark Rober's plan? Well, over 80% of the plastic that is currently in our oceans actually comes from 1% of the world's rivers. So if they can find a way to stop those rivers letting plastic ever reach the oceans, that will be the best prevention method. And I say they, but I mean the experts who have been working on this problem for years, not so much the YouTubers. Thankfully, since they have been working on this problem so long, they have a solution. And probably for the first time in history, you can say that the world is going to be saved by giant robots. And better yet, they're called interceptors. So how do they work? Well, the interceptors have barriers set out to direct the flow of plastic towards the mouth of the robot. They are set up in such a way that a minimal amount of plastic can escape. However, this isn't at the expense of other boats who could easily get around the barriers, as they never actually close the river off entirely. Once the plastics are directed towards the mouth of the machine, they are brought onto a conveyor belt which dumps them equally into large containment bins. Once these are filled up, a message is sent to a local cleanup team who will come and collect the plastic. They'll then empty the bins on land and then put the bins back into the machine. This process is forever repeatable, and the collector itself is powered by solar panels, making it carbon neutral too. In one day, an optimally placed inceptor can collect over 100,000 kilos of plastic a day, which sounds like a lot, and it is. The US dumps 104,109,589 kilos of plastic a year, which sounds like a lot until it's divided by 365, and it works out at roughly 300,000 kilos a day, which is a lot more manageable to a machine that can deal with 100,000 kilos a day. But unfortunately, all those sources of plastic to the ocean don't come from one or two rivers, but hundreds. However, pessimism aside, every bit taken out helps. But what is the cost of cleaning up the ocean? Well, MrBeast is aiming to raise $30 million, which is a lot. But unfortunately, the cost of these kind of projects aren't down to great guys like MrBeast and Mark Rober, but more on the scale of government. Estimates about how much it could cost to clean up ranges from $250 million a year to $90 billion to completely clean the problem. But luckily, money is coming in from a lot of sources, including governments who are funding the solutions. But more importantly, in my opinion, what TeamTrees does is raise awareness for the issue, which is the best way to deal with any problem. If companies are pressured to prevent themselves from dumping plastic, and the average person on the beach picks up their litter instead of leaving it, which I know sounds like a difficult thing, but trust me, it's not that hard, we will have a chance to get on top of this. And with more pressure on governments leads to greater funding. Also, another hope we have, and the oceans have, is our current wide adoption of plastic fades, as the negative side effects outweigh the positives of using it. So with that said, if you want to donate to help out cleaning the oceans, check the link in the description to find out how you can help. It's a worthwhile cause. Or alternatively, if you don't have any money to spare, look into why plastics are so dangerous and how they negatively affect your health. Also, share around about TeamSeas to your parents or to those who are likely to miss out on this because they don't use YouTube or the internet. The more people who see this campaign will only perpetuate its popularity and message. And the best thing is, both of those methods are free. I hope you've enjoyed that video, and if you are a MrBeast fan, check out this video on how he spends $40 million a year on all of his videos. Anyway, until next time, I will see you later.